Ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch podcast brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap, and I should mention the podcast also today brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, where you can use promo code ROSTER for a deposit bonus of up to $100 if you use the promo code ROSTER. Again, 100% deposit bonus up to $100. They still have the Best Ball Mania 3 contest going on right now, where it is $1 million to second place, $2 million to first place, $1 million to the winner for the regular season. I can't believe that there are going to be 3 millionaires in this contest. Go get into it. Underdog Fantasy, promo code ROSTER. All right, we've brought him back. My favorite guest we've ever had. You can hear back his story from episode 351. His name is John Kriesel. He is a all-around, he's a motivational speaker. He is a veteran. He's an ex-Minnesota congressman. He has an incredible story. He's a contributor to KFAN up there, a maniacal follower of the Minnesota Vikings. John, what the hell's going on, brother?
How are you?
Oh, dude, I'm doing great. And I can't thank you enough for taking some time out of your busy schedule here to hop on the pod. I know you're about to head out for a family trip. You're just back from, all your speaking engagement. How many of these speaking engagements do you do every year about? I mean, it's like, it feels like I follow you on Instagram and Twitter. It feels like every week you're somewhere new, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's about 50 to 60.
Oh, goodness.
I have to balance because I have a full-time job and then I do my speaking engagement. So I use my vacation time at my full-time job for my speaking engagements. And so I have to balance it out to make sure I can take the family on a couple vacations. Otherwise, speaking engagements will be no more. I don't want that. So
right. And the thing is, if you look on, we'll talk about it. If you look at your website, man, at stillstanding.com is where you can johnkriesel.com is where you can get the book. His book is Still Standing, and at johnkriesel.com is where you can go and kind of check out his story. But you read all the clips and all the links you have from there, and it's like you've done this for so many different companies, just running the gamut. I want to talk to you about it in a second, but before I do, can you just kind of, like I said, people can listen back to episode 351 to kind of hear your story and your origin story about sort of how you came into this motivational speaking and how your life changed. Can you just, I don't want you to have to go through it again,
Sure.
But if you could just kind of give is it something?
Can
you give something like, I hate to say Cliff Notes for something such an important seminal moment in your life, but can you give like the quick, just for anybody that hasn't heard that episode?
You bet. So in December of 2006, while on a patrol with some of my fellow soldiers near Fallujah, Iraq, we hit a 200-pound improvised explosive device, killed two of my best buddies. I lost both of my legs in the blast, and really that day changed my life. It taught me what was really, truly important in life. And when I woke up from my 8-day medically induced coma and realized that I had lived, I was just thankful to be alive. I remember being on the ground, seeing my injuries and being convinced that I was going to die. I was certain that I was not going to make it. Somehow I survived. My friends helped save my life. And then the doctors continue to help save my life. And so that really has shaped my life moving forward. It makes me appreciate, every day I wake up and hop into the shower literally, and then put my pants on my legs and then put my legs on every day like you all do, I'm sure. It's a reminder of that day and a reminder I never want to forget. Today's a gift. Tomorrow's never promised. So it's up to us to make today great. So I use that. I use a lot of humor because humor helped me get through what I've gotten through. And truly at this point in my life, I just feel blessed. The only PTSD I have is from my first marriage and from the Minnesota Vikings. Those are the two things that give me PTSD. So I'm a very lucky guy, and I enjoy sharing my story and really kind of how I got through what I did and how it applies to everyday life for anyone, whether it's a business, whether it's individual in the community, just all of that good stuff.
And so that all happened to you when you were a younger man fighting in the military. Now you're a husband and a dad and everything else. I didn't ask you this in the interview notes, but like, how did you get into when you got back? What was the timeline like? Like, did you go right into public service? Did you go into the private sector? Like, well, how long did you take during your I guess I never asked you before. Like, how long did the rehab take and everything? Like, I guess, are you still having to do rehab? Like, how does that all work? How does that all work?
I had 9 months that I spent at Walter Reed from when I arrived there 8 days after my blast, or maybe it was like 7 or 6 days. Gets mixed up as far as with that medically induced coma. And then I came home at the end of the summer of 2007. So it was about 9 months of recovery and rehabilitation. I could have stayed there longer and learned other things too, like skiing and swimming and all that. I just wanted to get back to Minnesota and start my life. You know, you spend so much time at the hospital preparing to live your new normal, that I just wanted to get after it and say, all right, physically, I'm where I need to be to get back there. And there was some stuff that I had to keep working on for a bit. But it was 9 months. Then I got back. I medically retired from the military. So they treat it as if you serve 20 years. So the military's been great to me. The VA's been great to me. From there, I went into a job working as a marketing contractor for the Minnesota National Guard. We helped set up marketing deals with the Minnesota Wild hockey team, Minnesota Vikings. That was the year Brett Favre came here for the 1 year of fun before the game, NFC title game ended like all the rest of them, in heartbreak. But then from there, I served in the Minnesota legislature. I was elected, served one term. I decided not to run for re-election. And then I wrote a book about my life story with my friend Jim Cosmo. He wrote the story, Still Standing. And then that then turned into public speaking because people wanted to hear the story firsthand. And that took off probably 2012, 2013, and has just continued. I keep expecting it to taper off, but it hadn't. Yeah. I mean, I've got it down for the year, basically. We're booking for 2023 now, well into 2023. So I can't believe it. Life is just crazy like that. If you keep your head up, smile, then you kind of allow good things to happen to you if you have the right attitude.
Well, and we'll talk football here in a minute, but I mean, we got John Kriesel on here. I gotta talk to the guy about what he knows best about. It's like it says like in the write-ups that people write about you in newspapers and stuff that have seen your speeches, right? What everybody always says, intensely positive attitude. And to me, I just think like, man, what a gift it is to have that. What a gift it is to be able to teach it, because it seems like, well, first of all, what does that even mean to you? Like, what does that mean to you to have an intensely positive attitude? Do you agree that that's a good way to describe you?
I think so. And I appreciate it. I look at that as a compliment. I think it's just it's focusing on what you can control. Bad things happen to us. We have rough days. Extra work might get piled on us at the end of the day or before we're about to go on vacation or whatever it is. Focus on what you can control. What you can control. Focus on trying to stay positive. And I think what people get so stressed out nowadays, and if you look over Twitter, Facebook, everything, everyone's riddled with anxiety and fears and all of that, which I think a lot of it's the unknown. And when things happen to us, if you just go, oh my gosh, let it overwhelm you, of course that kind of thing is going to be the result. Instead of just saying, all right, I got to get my head down and focus on what I'm going to do, come up with a plan. And then it's not the unknown. It's not as scary. It's not as terrifying, and that's how I got through what I did. When I woke up at the hospital, I had my goal. I said, I'm going to walk again. They said, you might not because my pelvis was shattered so much, but I had my plan. I knew what type of prosthetics I'd be able to wear. I knew what I had to do, and these doctors and physical therapists taught me what I had to do to get through it. That made it a lot less scary because I was focused on what was ahead of me rather than what was behind me. And I think a lot of people, and we live in an Instagram world where we're looking at everyone else's life. Social media is a helpful tool, but it's not real life. We look at Instagram, each of those photos probably took 20 takes, and oh, I didn't get the right angle or this, or we're posting the best moments of our life on there, which is cool. That's kind of what it's for. But people then think that that's reality and that their life is not as good as the person they're following on social media, because that person might take better photos or be better about posting it, instead of really focusing on their own life and being thankful for the blessings in their life.
And so I feel like whenever you think about this positivity and the people who could need it, right? To me, it feels like there's two types. Maybe the first type is, what about the people that want to be positive, but it's like you just kind of forget. It's not something. It just feels like, what if you're just going through your life and things are fine? Like,
I know what you're saying.
Do you have any tips for people to remember to be positive in their lives? Are there any tips or tricks?
Yeah. So one thing I recommend is, on those, because we all have tough days. I'm an intensely positive person, but I have my days. We all have our days. It's fine. One of those nights where I maybe don't sleep well, maybe don't feel well, or the weather's bad or whatever. When I wake up on those mornings and it's just kind of like, oh man, today's a rough one. And I try to be good about this. And I usually am, because of what I've been through in my life, is take a Post-it note, write 3 to 5 things in your life. Or even if you, at the end of a rough day, take 3 to 5 things in your life, write those down in the Post-it note, whether it's husband, wife, son, daughter, kids, grandkids, upcoming trip, something. Take that Post-it note, put it on your bathroom mirror. That's the first thing you see when you start your next day. And I tell you what, a positive thought in the morning sets the tone for the entire day. And that's really it, is that, of course, I'm not thankful for what I went through in Iraq. I wish that didn't happen, but I know that all the wishing in the world isn't going to change what happened. So I look at the bright side of things. That's what I try to do, is I'm thankful for the lessons that I've learned through that incident. And it helps me keep things in perspective on days where I've got a ton of stuff that I have to do, or just maybe things don't go as planned. Or the other day, for instance, we're in Iowa and I found a little Paw Patrol toy in my pocket. I was like, oh, Chloe, your toys. And I gave it to her as we're getting into my truck. She goes up to the brand new truck that I got and just scratches the hell out of it. I was frustrated, of course, but she's a toddler. She doesn't know what she was doing. That's just the way. I didn't know it was going to happen when I gave it to her. And my wife, I think, thought I was much more mad because I love that new truck. Mm-hmm. I just, for about 5 to 10 minutes, I just was like, what are you going to do? It's just one of those things. It's no big deal. It's a little item, or it's a vehicle that, yes, that's important, but not in the grand scheme of life. And I just reminded myself, I took the advice that I give other people during my motivational speeches, and within a couple minutes, I'd forgotten about it. I've since buffed it out and it looks great again. But little stuff, though, and I try not to compare what I've been through to what other people been through. There could be they didn't meet their sales goal for that week. That could be the worst thing that ever happened to them in the past 5 years. That could just be devastating to them. Or I look at that and go, well, it could be much worse. And so that's the key also, is not measuring our stuff, because we could always look at someone who has it worse. And that's not very helpful either. It's more important to look at the things in our life and the people in our life and the joys we have and focus on those. And then when you do have a bad day, it's nothing but a little bump in the road, because you're focused on the good. Instead of waiting until the holidays to do the personal inventory, we should be doing that year round.
Yeah, and the Post-it note, whenever you write that, is just the act of writing it enough, or do you take it with you during the day, or put it somewhere?
Leave it up there, and then when you see it in the morning, that's when you need it the most, is to start your day. Uh-huh. If you flip on, I used to, and I watch the news every day, but in the morning, if I flip on the news when I'd be on the treadmill or whatever, and it's a lot of times it's overnight stuff that happened, bad car accident, killed 2 people, murder overnight. This not great stuff. That's why I turn on Sports Center or NFL Network or whatever, just mindless stuff to start the day, instead of starting it off just going, oh my goodness, that's a tragedy. And it doesn't mean to block everything out and be uninformed, but there's a time and place for it. So the morning is the time to really start your day off on the right foot, if you have feet.
Jesus Christ. Oh, okay. All right. All right. So what about this? Then the other, and then we'll talk Vikings. But just what about on the other side of it? Like, What about the people who have not just like the woe is me, didn't meet my sales goal this week, the guys that need the Post-it note, maybe these people do. What about the people who really are? They're like they're going through they're going through the slog. Like things have gone bad. I feel like, if you live through times like that of bad personal tragedy, I've personally found it's kind of hard to develop a positive outlook. Do you have any tips or tricks for people who actually are in the slog and they're kind of in the, not the fog of war, but the proverbial sort of fog of war? Any tips or tricks for those kinds of people?
Try as best as you can to laugh. The ability to laugh at yourself and have a positive sense of humor, just a sense of humor, ability to laugh at yourself. That's really what got me through what I did. And then sometimes stuff gets so bad that all you can do is just shake your head and laugh. And just know that you will get through it. It might feel like it's never going to end, whatever your adversity is. But then once you go through it and you have that right attitude and you don't let that adversity cripple you and change who you are, except maybe for the better. If you have the positive attitude, sense of humor, the right attitude, and you get through it and you look back on that adversity, you will have grown because of that adversity. And then you can reflect on it and learn from it. It makes you a stronger person instead of just being so crippled by it. And again, nobody going through adversity is like, you know what, this is a really good time. I'm enjoying this. But you get through it. When I got back from Walter Reed and I started my career and I thought life was perfect, I was like, all right, life is good. Then I ended up getting a divorce because I found out some stuff and was like, okay, that would have probably been the worst thing that ever happened to me if it hadn't been for that bomb blast. So that helped me get perspective on it. But at the same time, just the way I'm wired, I use humor as a diffuser. And that's really, sometimes you just laugh. I use humor about it because it's funny. And you know what? I got through it. Even though at the moments I'm like, this is never going to end. I'm going to be stuck in this purgatory the rest of my life. It did end. And my life is so much better now, having gotten through it. And the key was then I wasn't a sourpuss and woe is me, poor me. Yeah, it sucked going through it. It was awful. But I had the right attitude and I still tried to be upbeat and just kind of laugh about it when it got so bad. And then that allowed me to meet a new woman, and I'm happily married now, got an awesome daughter. If I had been this grumpy, poor me, played the victim card, I wouldn't be with my wife now because no one would want to be with someone like that. And so it's trying to allow good things to happen to you, keeping yourself surrounded as best as you can by a small group of very good, supportive people. And then the right attitude and those people, you can get through anything in life, even if you think you can't, even if you think this is the worst moment of your life, you hang in there, you'll get through it and look back on it. And you'll be a better, stronger person ever after having gone through it.
Well, and it's such a powerful message. And I wonder, like I said, I look on your website and it's a who's who of organizations who've had you as a speaker. And it's like, it's not just, it's big ones. It's things like Target. It's, but then it's also like Boy Scouts or like,
Right.
Like sales. You talk to a group of salesmen or you talk to a group of like execs. Like, do you have to cater your message or like, do you say like, all right, well, here's how you apply it to you or what you're doing? Like, or is it just, do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. Yes.
Is there an overriding principle that goes with everybody, or is there something different for everybody to sort of take away from your story?
The bulk of my message applies to people, whether they're a teenager or whether they're a 60-year-old business executive or a grandmother or grandfather. The message is generally the same. It's about attitude. It's about the power of positive thinking, about having a sense of humor, and about really perspective and how we view our own lives and how we should view our lives. I tailor certain parts of it based on the group. If it's a youth group, I don't get into the gory details about what my legs look like or the fact that I could hear myself bleeding into the sand, stuff like that. I will censor it a little bit, but the overriding message that regardless of the things that happen to us, we often can't control those things, but we always can control how we respond. and attitude is a choice. It is 100% a choice. If you wake up in the morning and decide that it's going to be a bad day, you're going to get your wish, 100% chance. Conversely, if you wake up and say, I'm going to make it a great day, you will, regardless of what happens to you. That attitude that you start your day with, that sets the tone. And then little things that happen to you, brush them off your shoulder because you got the right attitude about it. And that's kind of the key takeaway. But I use humor throughout because it's obviously a tragic story, with the loss of my two friends. It's just going through it definitely wasn't very fun. And so I make sure to inject humor because that's how I got through it, but also to let the audience know that that is really what will get you through this stuff and that it is okay to laugh. I want them to look at this as an uplifting, positive story, not something of extreme tragedy that hangs a cloud over their head the rest of that day.
So the importance of positivity, positive outlooks. What is the outlook right now of Vikings fans that you observe? Is there positivity in the Vikings fan base finally heading into a season now with some of these exciting additions and a new staff, basically a whole new regime?
There's a lot of positivity. Now, full disclosure, I was a big Zimmer guy when he got hired. I was campaigning for his hire. I just like that hard-nosed, old school mentality that we needed, that I think the Vikings needed after having Leslie Frazier, who was a great coach, great defensive mind, but there was a lot of stuff that went on that team that just he was a little bit, what I thought, too laid back. Maybe that's just the military in me speaking, but I thought Zimmer was what this team needed at that time, and I think he was. Completely flipped the team 180, went to a hard-nosed brand of defensive football, became kind of a run-first team. That wore thin. And it was a mostly, I think, every other year until the past 2 years, the Vikings made the playoffs under his leadership. But then last year didn't make it, year before. So that was the first time in his tenure back-to-back that they missed the playoffs. There was the deep run in 2017. So it had its moments, but it got old. And even as a diehard Vikings fan, I watch every game. Mike Zimmer is a lot of the reason why I think the Sunday ticket was worth every penny that I've been paying for it, because I like to watch those other games. And in a copycat league, it's tough sitting there watching your team basically behave like it's the original Tecmo Bowl, with 3 to 5 plays, it seemed like, while everybody else is new and innovative, or not everybody else, but
many,
the Rams and some of these, and I wanted that, and our whole fan base wanted that, and really now we got our wish, and we can see with the weapons on this team. Was it coaching? We will soon find out. Really, was it coaching? Because there's not many new faces on this team right now compared to when Mike Zimmer was leading them, and so we're gonna absolutely see it. Vikings have the best quarterback they've had since Dante Culpepper, because I don't really count that Brett Favre year. A lot of things have been the offensive line, I think, has been a big issue in holding this offense back. But the offense has been very good. The problem has been defense. So we will see. I'm excited to see what they do on the offense. But really, what's going to matter to this team more is what they do on defense. If they are okay on defense, this is a team that can go into the playoffs and maybe even win a playoff game.
Yeah, well, and of course, Kevin O'Connell comes over from the Rams. All the comparisons now are like, well, the Rams had this guy. Could this guy be like this version of him? But you talk about the defense, and I mean, in the NFC North this year, I mean, doesn't it seem like the NFC North feels about as wide open as you can really ever remember? Because you have Aaron Rodgers still in the division. I mean, he's never hard. That's never an easy out. But I mean, the weapons there aren't just very good. You look at the Bears, and you're just like, literally. I mean, my wife is really into football. If I asked her right now who a player on the Bears offense was, she might not even be able to answer. Right. You know what I mean? Like Detroit, they look like they could be better, but it's still kind of Detroit. I wonder if you feel the same way. If things feel pretty, it feels like you're coming into a pretty wide open division.
It does feel more wide open than it has in the past, but let's be clear that even though we have all this excitement and optimism here in Minnesota as a fan base, this is still This, as long as Aaron Rodgers is under center for Green Bay, it is their division to lose. Really, at this point, and now they've lost Davante Adams. That is a huge loss.
Oh,
he did. The receiving core was him, and then nobody else. Basically, it cost them a run to the title game, or they would have made the NFC Championship game if he didn't just focus in on Davante Adams. But he was so stubborn and didn't trust his other receivers that he would throw into double, triple coverage.
mm-hmm.
So, yes, Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks that has ever played this game. He is a thorn in the side of the Vikings, but this team traditionally has played him pretty tight. A lot of it was Mike Zimmer's scheme worked on Aaron Rodgers. They had that chess match that worked. I don't know how it's going to work now with this new regime. And with them having lost, I think they lost 6 starters. Of course, they've taken a step back. And I feel like the Vikings have taken a step forward. But that gap, I mean, they won the division by 5 games last year. I still think it is Green Bay's division. Could the Vikings win it? Absolutely. I don't think the Vikings are going to make a run at a Super Bowl, but they could win the NFC North. I still think it's Green Bay. Now, as far as the others, I think the Lions are on the right path. They're fun to watch. I love their leadership. They had a hell of a draft, partially thanks in part to the Vikings making that trade, helping them out. I don't know why they did that, but they're headed in the right direction. Bears are in a full rebuild. So I do think it is a 2-team race for the NFC North, and I think Green Bay will win it, but it will be closer than in the previous couple of years.
Are you buying the hype on Dalvin Cook? What are your friends at the radio station said? Like, what are they saying up there about Dalvin, all this stuff? Oh, because they're saying they're using him more split out. They're going to get him the ball more. You would generally think if a team says they indicate they're not going to be as run heavy anymore, that might be intuitively you think that's bad for the running back, especially if you're playing fantasy. But I think for Dalvin, it might not be. I mean, do you think that he could have a big season upcoming like some people are hoping for? And do you think he can stay healthy? Do you have any take on the whole, Dalvin Cook versus Christian McCaffrey debate about these guys? If there's one guy that's more injury prone, but they both had trouble staying healthy, playing for a full season, despite being just such incredible athletes.
And Christian McCaffrey, when it comes down to the durability, Christian McCaffrey played all 16 games, back when it was a 16-game schedule, his first 3 years. Dalvin Cook has yet to play a full season. His rookie year, he tore his ACL early, I think 4 games in.
Yeah.
And then I think the most he's played is 14 games, and it's been 13 a couple times. He can't stay healthy. And it seems to be all over the place. Shoulder, hamstring.
Right.
Knee, ankle, kind of all over the place. Now, that could be in part just to overusage, because the Vikings, the previous leadership, Mike Zimmer, he made it known to everyone in the press conferences even, we need to be running the ball more. We'd be down by 4, and I say we because, of course, I am on the Vikings. Vikings would be down 14 points, 17 points in the fourth quarter. And he's still run the ball. And it got exhausting. Also, on your probably your most important player besides quarterback, because when Dalvin's on the field, it changes everything. And so having him on the field is important. And when you're wearing him down, especially down the stretch in games that are the running game isn't going to get you back in it, it got old. So I'm curious to see how the new leadership, how Kevin O'Connell and the rest of the staff, how they're going to keep Dalvin on the field. Is it going to be more of, like you said, spreading them out for, wheel routes, whatever, instead of just pounding them up the middle?
I would love to see it. I would love to see it.
He is so fun to watch run the ball. He is so fun to watch run the ball, but we need him in the game. That is the key. The team is much more dangerous. That offense is much more dangerous, much more versatile when he's in. Alexander Mattison is a very capable backup running back, but he is not on the same level as Dalvin Cook. And when he's in the game and Dalvin's out, completely changes how the defense looks at that team.
Do you think that this whole thing about the narrative with Justin Jefferson taking on the Cooper Kupp role, if that happens, is Justin Jefferson just like in fantasy the smash number 1 wide receiver? I mean, because you look, I was looking at it, that he wasn't that far off in targets last year.
Right,
He had
like 30? It was 167 to 191 or something, right?
Yeah. So it was somewhere in the somewhere in the 160s. It might have been 167. It might have been 162. I don't remember exactly. I think you might have it 167. But still, man, it just feels when I hear that you get the same Cooper Kupp role and your name's Justin Jefferson, my ears perk up and I say, oh my God, that's like the super receiver, right?
And that's the fun part about this part of the summer too, when we're getting ready for training camp and the injury, the wounds of last year start to heal, and we can focus on the next season and start to get excited. But what I think, Kevin O'Connell is a brilliant offensive mind. Obviously, he knows that this offense is very different than the one he just left and the one that he designed out there. So I don't think that there is a perfect plug and play with Justin Jefferson and Cooper Kupp. Justin Jefferson in his current role in the so-called run first offense that the Vikings had for the past couple of years, he was thriving. I mean, he is 1,200 yards shy of breaking the NFL record for most yardage, receiving yardage in the first 3 years of a career. He'd break Randy Moss's record. He should have broke Randy Moss's record last year, but Zimmer was being a stubborn jerk about it and that meaningless game. So I think he's going to have a massive year. I think he's going to have a better year now this season than he did previously. Is it going to be Cooper Kupp? That was a pretty historic season. I don't think Cooper Kupp is going to have another season like that again. That's going to be tough to replicate. And of course, every team in the NFL is going to try and copy that and do the same thing. And defenses are going to find a way to stop it.
Do you think Adam Thielen is on his way out? I mean, he's going to be 32. Do you still think he's got a few good years in him?
He does. His game isn't predicated so much on speed as it is on precise route running. And generally, those careers last longer. Think back to Chris Carter and your other guys that can just precise quarterback in trouble, knows exactly where that guy is without even looking. He can drop one in there for him. He missed, I think, 4 games last year, still had almost 100 targets. There's plenty of football to go around in this offense, especially Tyler Conklin left. That's 87 targets gone. It's going to be interesting to see, but you've got Justin Jefferson taking a lot of focus away from Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen's going to have room to run around and make some plays this year. And again, I don't think he's lost his step. It sounds like in the workouts, he's healthy. His ankle surgery went well. So as long as he can stay healthy, he's a guy that he's got such a good rapport with Kirk Cousins that he's kind of the safety valve now that Kyle Rudolph has been gone for a couple of years. So I don't think, of course, he is on the backside of his career, but I don't think he will be making $11 million a season moving forward. But he definitely is a top tier receiver and has a place in this offense for a couple more years at least.
So the Justin Jefferson fantasy owners are going to get to keep tilting all these Adam Thielen touchdowns. They definitely love him down there, man, for sure. All right, John, we have I just have this last question about the NFC North I want to ask you. But first, I just want to remind everybody to please go give John a follow on Twitter at John Kriesel. That's KRIESEL. You can find him at johnkriesel.com. Get the book Still Standing. If your organization is interested in a great speaker who can relate to anybody, who's a ton of fun, listen back to episode 351 of this podcast just to get a little taste of his story and what he could bring to your organization with his motivational speaking. We ask RosterWatch Nation to mobilize, unite, and go follow John Kriesel. Okay, and then. Dude, we appreciate you taking time. I know that companies pay you big fees to give you for you to come talk for a while. So we really do appreciate you coming on. So before that, also, I got to do the thing. I got to ask if you're listening to this, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, or give us a good rating and a review for the podcast, and also use that promo code at Underdog Fantasy, where you see right up there. Promo code ROSTER for 100% deposit bonus. Okay, final question for you here. So it's a 3-parter. So you're in the NFC North. You're a huge Vikings fan. I want to know the one guy that scares you on each of these teams in division. So the one guy who you go to bed shaking in your boots, I guess. or with whatever you go. Sorry, the one guy that the one guy that has you sweating bullets, right? On every team. So let's start out with the Green Bay Packers. I think I know your answer.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that is a no-brainer. First ballot Hall of Famer. He can pull a rabbit out of a hat. He's frustrating as hell to watch, but also enjoyable to watch. Just I don't like when we're facing off against him. So definitely him.
Did you just one quick question? Did you get to see any of the rookie Christian Watson who they drafted? Have you gotten a look at him or kind of heard anything about that? He'll be an interesting one to watch. Maybe one day he'll be one of these guys.
I will be there yelling my ass off. It will be it should be a fun opening weekend.
Maybe he'll be one of these guys that'll scare you at some point in the future,
Right.
or he could be a gigantic bust. But he's a big time size, speed kind of receiver. So we'll see about Christian Watson. All right, the Detroit Lions,
Jameson Williams.
You're already sweating over him?
Yep. I mean I think he's going to be an absolute stud. And Jared Goff is not a great quarterback, but he's a serviceable quarterback. That team, and you got DJ Chark. So I think the offense in general is going to be much better. And the fact also, because we are, like I say, I'm intensely positive, but we are fatalists when it comes to Minnesota sport. And the fact that we traded that pick to the Lions so they could move up and get him. It felt weird because normally you don't do that with a divisional rival. And we also did it with Green Bay later in the draft. But yeah, he is just his college tape, and the SEC he ate that conference alive. He's going to be the real deal. So yeah, he has not played in an NFL regular season game yet, but he is one that I'm concerned about.
John Kriesel, not only scared about the player Jameson Williams is, but by the circumstances by which they came across him that could come back to hurt everybody's feelings later, because they actually traded that help them get that player. So yeah, that's a good nuanced take. And finally, the hardest one I'm going to give you, when you look at the Chicago Bears, who is it who scares you the most?
Roquan Smith.
Yeah, good.
He's a stud. Khalil Mack's gone. So that team, they're in a full rebuild, but there's a couple good linebackers still. So but Roquan is the one that I guess would kind of keep me up at night.
It didn't Justin Fields just yet?
Not yet. I wanted the Vikings to move up and get, and they almost did. After the fact, we find out that they didn't offer enough. But I like Kirk, so I'm glad that we've got Kirk under center. But Justin Fields has all the tools to be good. We will see. I think that previous coaching staff was holding him back too. So it will be an interesting season to see his development for sure.